So. Ja gut. Das Einzige, was mir jetzt noch einfallen würde, ist, dass wir jetzt vielleicht nach oben können, um zu gucken, ob wir vielleicht in eins der Zimmer können. Nee. Okay. Ich denke mal, dann fahren wir mal ins Labor und danach in die Leichenhalle.
I'll call Robbins, tell him to send somebody down here to pick up the body. And I'll make sure the officers hold the scene for us, just in case we need to come back here.
So. Dann fangen wir mal an. Okay. So, welchen Beweis? Den. So vielleicht? Aber ich muss die Dinger ja immer miteinander vergleichen. Das ist das Problem jedes Mal. Na, so wird das nichts. Beweise das, Beweise... Nach. Ich gehe erst in die Leichenhalle. So. Schauplätze. Leichenhalle. So. Hi, Doc.
Hello again. Still working on your victim. But I can tell you her prelim tox came back with a toxic level of morphine. I should be finished with the autopsy pretty soon. I'll give you a call when I'm done.
Er ist also noch nicht fertig. Das heißt, wir müssen doch zuerst ins Labor. Ah, wir können zuerst mal einen DNA-Scan laufen lassen für den Fingerabdruck, beziehungsweise Fingerabdruck-Scan halt. Ob der schon mal registriert wurde. Fingerabdrücke, Beweise, Analyse. Da. 5. Resultate haben wir tatsächlich. So. Wo ist es denn? Das passt, jawohl. Okay. Sie hat schon mal illegale Demonstrationen gemacht, aber
So, the print on the bottle matches Jane Barrett. It says here she was arrested 6 months ago as part of a Death with Dignity demonstration in Carson City.
das ist natürlich interessant. So. Wir brauchen einen Gerichtsbeschluss für... Aha.
What do you got in the way of evidence? Prints on the bottle of morphine belong to Ms. Barrett? Well, until Doc Robbins gives us the results of the autopsy, we can't even think about a warrant. But maybe Ms. Barrett will come in here voluntarily to answer some more questions. No harm in asking her, right?
Yay. So, dann beantworten Sie mal.
Thank you for coming in voluntarily, Miss Barrett.
Of course, officers. I'm happy to help with your investigation. No, of course not. Mary had already passed by the time I got here.
Ha! Da.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant today. I did change her morphine when it ran out during my visit last week. Euthanasia? Well, it's one of those... In theory, it sounds like something which could be a good thing, but in practice, what scares me is the opportunity for abuse. Kids offing their grandparents in order to inherit the money to buy a new cell phone? No, I'm opposed to it.
Und schon wieder. Ja. Ich würde jetzt gerne die... Na.
Miss Barrett, are you aware that your fingerprints are on record because you were arrested 6 months ago at a death with dignity demonstration in Carson City?
I wish I could chalk that up to youthful indiscretion, but obviously I was old enough to know better. Suffice it to say, my politics 6 months ago had more to do with my personal relationships than my personal beliefs. I don't mean to suggest that there's anything wrong with the death with dignity people. It's just that I wasn't really with them, if you know what I mean. And honestly, having lived with Mary like this for all this time, I can't say I could make a decision like that. Especially because, even though she can't speak, I know Mary wants to live. I know that very much in my heart.
Miss Barrett, could you tell us your whereabouts for the last 24 hours?
I live in Los Angeles. I come up here to visit with Mary once a week. I flew up here this morning. By that look on your face, I'd imagine you'd also like to know if anyone can verify what I'm saying, but I don't think anyone I know saw me. Oh, wait. Hold on. Actually, I have this excellent home security setup. Superior security systems. You see the way it works? You're either in the away setting with the motion detectors on, or the home setting with them off. They gave me an application for my cell phone that tracks when I'm home and when I'm away. I can send what it recorded for the last 24 hours to you, and you'll be able to see I was home, right up until I left for my flight this morning.
Okay. Send us those records, Miss Barrett. But we'll still have to authenticate them with your security company. So I just got the records for Jane Barrett's security system from Superior Security. Looks like they check out. According to the records, Miss Barrett was at home last night at 11. You know, the Mars family is still a pretty powerful player in this state. And it's pretty much an open secret that John Barrett was set to inherit everything when Mary Mars died. Jane Barrett wasn't even going to get a little something for the effort.
Well, being left out of the will is a possible motive, but what do we think about Jane helping Mary end her own life? Trying to give her death with dignity?
You know what death with dignity is? It means you don't drool. I think when you have a family with a lot of money to fight over, I don't trust any of them. But if Doc Robbins tells us the time of death clears Jane Barrett, then I'll move on to the next best suspect, family member or not. Vault Insurance Company was only too happy to provide us with their claim file on Mary Marst's accident.
Okay. Foto der Spuren am Bremsventil. Ich gehe noch mal ins Labor und checke meine anderen Beweise durch. So. So, sorry. Das gehört definitiv da dran. So. So, das gehört da rein. Das gehört dazwischen. So, irgendwie.
All right. Now we should be able to read the serial number. I'd collect those bits of metal, too. They weren't part of the regulator.
Okay. So. Ich möchte mal Dokumentanalyse, Beweise, das hier.
Okay, so this pretty much backs up what Jane Barrett told us. She was home in Los Angeles last night. Pretty solid alibi.
Ja. Okay. Ich denke aber nicht, dass hier ein versteckter Text drin ist. Nee. Also, der Vergleich, Beweise und das.
Same tread, same side. So whoever passed by the bronze bust of Frank Marst also approached Mary Marst in her bed.
So. Habe ich mir fast gedacht. Okay. Aber vielleicht hier noch irgendwas.
That's the record of Mary Marst's morphine usage. Take a look at the line of continuous usage during the last entry. I'd be surprised if that's not our cause of death right there. You may have something there. Jane comes to visit every Sunday, and every Sunday Mary's morphine usage becomes erratic. The records from Jane's security system indicate there was one Sunday when she stayed home. Now, don't you think it's odd she didn't happen to mention that one Sunday to us? It's also not reflected in Mary's pattern of morphine usage. It doesn't contradict Jane's alibi, but it's definitely worth keeping in mind.
Hey, Robin's here. Sorry if I slowed you down any, but I was finally able to determine your victim's time of death. You're looking at somewhere around 11 p.m. last night. Why don't you meet me in the morgue when you're ready, and we can go over the rest of the autopsy results.
Okay, ich guck noch schnell. Nee, dafür hatte ich nix. Ja, und für den anderen Test auch nicht. So. Dann schieß los.
Thanks for waiting. Ms. Marst's previous injuries, which resulted in extensive hypertrophic scarring, made my job a lot more challenging than I'd expected. I'm sorry if I've slowed you down any. Sure, I collected them for you, as usual.
So.
No, it would have been impossible. Her medical records indicate Ms. Marst sustained multiple near-fatal injuries in a car crash. Apparently, she actually inhaled burning fuel, which obviously severely and permanently damaged her vocal cords. It's a good question, and I have no answer for you. Now, in a situation like this, where such a high dose of morphine is involved, I look for signs of cadaveric spasm, because when voluntary muscles are deprived of oxygen due to, say, strenuous activity, these muscles tend to seize up perimortem, and indications of cadaveric spasming, let's say in the hands or arms, would tend to suggest the victim was in the midst of a struggle around the time of death, and I looked for such indications. When I got the full tox report back, it seemed to me that the level of morphine in her system was so toxic, it probably caused her to slip very quickly into an unconscious state just prior to the total collapse of lungs. So, absent any indication of cadaveric spasm, I concluded your victim's voluntary muscles were not engaged in any such strenuous activity perimortem. The more important point here is that whether this was a deliberate act of murder or an assisted suicide, Mary Marst's death was the result of a homicide.
Das ist schon mal gut.
I estimate time of death to be somewhere around 11 p.m. last night. The problem I had with this one is, if you take a good look at the muscular atrophy, it presents like advanced rigor. These pressure ulcers and skin abrasions also led to some initial confusion over the degree of livor mortis. And finally, once I got Ms. Marst's medical records and saw she'd stopped eating solid food about 3 months ago, I knew I couldn't use any partially digested food to help set her time of death.
Man, you weren't kidding when you said this one was challenging.
Yeah, but that's what keeps the spark alive in this job.
Okay.
Just because something walks like a duck and quacks like a duck doesn't mean we shouldn't assume it's a duck. The massive amounts of morphine found in the victim's system would lead one to expect death by overdose-related causes, and I did determine Ms. Marst's cause of death to be asphyxia due to morphine intoxication. Because the extensive scar tissue in Ms. Marst's lungs was hypertrophic, it took a little while for me to distinguish the morphine as the root cause of the asphyxia, as opposed to a more general catastrophic failure of the respiratory system due to her persistent condition.
Is it just me, Doc, or did this autopsy take a little longer than usual?
Well, Nick, it's just been a while since I examined a body with such severely burned tissues that hadn't been a contributing factor to COD.
Danke.
Anything I can do, feel free to take a closer look at the body yourself. Oh, almost forgot. There's a shard of some kind embedded in the back of her left hand. I left it for you to collect. Scar tissue here is extensive, as well as hypertrophic.
Ja. So, den Splitter wollen wir haben.
That's the shard I told you about.
So. Aber irgendwas muss ja noch mit diesem Kopfdings sein. Aber scheinbar nicht so.